Good evening, good day to everyone, those who are worshiping with us through this live streaming. I would like to focus this reflection on the first reading. Seldom we consider the first reading, and we have a gem precisely these days from one of the most important letters written by St. Paul, that of the Galatians, precisely because of one of its theme, which is one of central importance in our faith. The figure of Abraham is one of the most popular in the Bible, throughout the Bible actually. In fact, I searched in the Bible statistics that he ranks number 7 most named, most referred to in the Bible. Of course, number 1 is Jesus Christ, and number 7 is Abraham. In the first reading today, from Paul's letter to the Galatians, Abraham is presented as the figure, the icon, or the emblem of a perfect believer. Of course, this dimension has been reflected in many other passages of the Bible, especially, for example, in Genesis chapter 15, where it says there, Abraham believed in the Lord, and he credited it to him as righteousness. Or the very story of his obedience in chapter 22, Genesis chapter 22, obeying God even to the point of offering his own son, Isaac, the image of a faithful believer. Paul, however, in his letter, in his reflection on the image and example of Abraham, employs the figure of Abraham in a new direction, or towards a new meaning, in harmony with his whole theological project. Abraham is a model of pure faith, which is not based on the works of the law to acquire salvation, but receives it as a gift by God, by often opening oneself to Him. So Abraham becomes, in this sense, the sign of salvation, not only to the people of God, but even for the pagans who did not have the guarantee of the Mosaic law, and yet they are also blessed and called to salvation precisely because of the example of what Abraham has shown, and that is the greatness of his faith. The argumentation of Paul is this: if Abraham, his faith justified him, now that faith, when it is lived by others, even without the merit of the law, can also be saved. The liberation of humankind from its evil happens not through the merit of humankind, of human beings, but because of Christ, who, in the language of today's reading, he was accursed, assuming upon himself the sin of the world. He who was condemned, seeming condemned, hangs on the wood. No, the image of a sinner condemned in the Old Testament, Christ assumes that as he hung on the cross, and that would bring the sinfulness of humankind to liberation. And with his crucifixion and death, he would bring liberation and the gift of the Spirit. So we notice here in the letter of Paul that he is battling against that view of salvation that capitalizes on one's own merit of human beings, as if one can pay or buy his own salvation. Instead, Paul emphasizes the gratuity of salvation, that salvation is a gift from God and acquired for us already by Christ's death and resurrection. So Paul tries to refocus our attention away from the self, from our own merits, or in his context, the merits of the law, the observance of the law, but rather to fix our eyes, our vision on God, on Jesus, with that fundamental attitude of openness and trust, which we call faith, like that of Abraham. A beautiful message, a beautiful view that Paul proposes using the image of Abraham to show us and to provide for all the way to be included in this work of salvation. It is not anymore connected with the merit that one can have in the context of Paul, the observance of the law, but precisely in the openness to that gift that God gives us, which was accomplished by Jesus Christ. With this faith then, in relating with God, this faith opens for everybody, not limited anymore to those observant of the Mosaic law, but it is open to everyone. And Paul would say that about Abraham, that the Gentiles will be blessed in and through Abraham's faith. This is also our hope, that through our faith, our life of faith, others may be blessed also, like in Abraham. Others were blessed in him and through him. Especially during this time of uncertainty and insecurity, our faith, the example of firm faith in God, may others, especially those who are struggling in their faith, may find inspiration and strength from the example of and life of faith of many Christians who hold on to their faith in spite of the difficulties. Then, like Abraham's faith, others are indeed blessed through the faith of Abraham. And our faith also today, who celebrate this Eucharist, brings us also to remember them in our celebration, and that is the sense precisely of the next part of our celebration, the prayer of the faithful, that through our faith as a community, we offer to God, in the name of those who are struggling in their faith, that through our action, through our prayer, may they be blessed also. So in fact, our prayer has a missionary dimension. Because we believe, as people of God, as one body, we help each other by virtue of our baptism, of our one faith we profess. So let this be our contribution also to the world struggling to find meaning in the midst of this pandemic, as we remember them in our prayers, personal prayers, especially in our community prayers today in this Mass. May they be blessed through our faith. Amen.